Okay, well, welcome to everybody. Oh, goodness me, week 4, believe it or not. Can you believe it? Scary but true. So let's just go and have a look at what's been going on for this particular week, as exciting as it is. So yes, I'm in student mode, so it looks like exactly what you would see. What do we got? Let's go and have a look at the workshop. Well, the lecture video stream. Oh, I don't know, come back to week 1 now. So what did I say? Week 4. Goodness me. Oh, okay. This is pretty. This is a, well, what do I say, a cruisy week, a nice cruise. It's not too horrible. And again, the textbook doesn't cover this, as I've mentioned previously, SCADA and PLCs. It has been as introductory, but it's there just to at least raise your consciousness, and the labs itself will be the bit that, you know, if you like, the more interesting part, I hope. But this is, yes, again, that's just a bit of background about SCADA. Centralized control systems, basically what it is. And the interesting thing about it, I suppose, is, you know, as you might imagine, there's interfaces. There's the whole point of it is that you can sit, you know, comfortably. You know, in the mining industry over in Western Australia, Rio Tinto, what they do in some ways, they sit down in the control room, and some of the automated vehicles that they have, including the train, they've got trains and trucks over there for a while. Basically, they can sit somewhere, you know, in air-conditioned comfort in Perth and control things. Likewise, I've been on site here in Queensland, just trying to think, oh no, that was in Western Australia as well. Over in Western Australia, I had the fortuitous opportunity to go to a diamond mine, pink diamond mine. And it, again, it's up in, I'll try and trigger it in a minute, but equally, you fly in on site, there's an airport on site, and you go down in the mine, that's great, but the controls, they actually do have a control, computer control system there on site, compared to having it, you know, way over in Perth, right, way down in Perth. And the key thing, of course, is that, you know, the interface and supervision of systems through to these remote ideas. I mean, these are you know, RTUs. The electrical industry here obviously uses them. I've had an opportunity to look at those. Also, I'm just trying to think of another place. Oh, industries everywhere. These are, you know, this is nothing new in terms of this kind of formatting and decentralized systems, I suppose. But as I say, in the example of the Rio Tinto with automated trucks and autonomous, well, not automated, they're autonomous trucks, and also, of course, with the train as well over in Western Australia, it's, you know, ramped up quite a bit. And that's significant for, you know, you as coming through as students and as young engineers. You know, we're going to go to Mars sometime, so it'll certainly be in your lifetime. They're talking, you know, enthusiastically, you know, the 2030s, don't blink, it's not very far away, to be honest. So all that kind of stuff, and you see with Virgin and those kind of guys, the commercialization of, you know, having a holiday in space, that type of stuff. So all these kind of space age scientific things are certainly coming to the fore. So welcome to the 21st century. As always, you've got to deal with standards. These are just some examples, so, you know, it's not, don't take it as a gospel or, you know, exhaustive in that way. So it's just a, as I say, this is a conscious raising unit just to trigger some things for you. And I guess some of the interesting things, the SCADA architectures, what it really reflects, if you've had a read through it, is once we get down to the 4th generation, really this is to do with computerized systems. So the reality, of course, is that in the old days, the people that made this stuff had a lot of control over it, because they would charge you lots of monies to fine tune it to your system, et cetera, and that type of stuff. But also you were restricted in those days because of the computing power, the way the computers were networked. You know, generally that was in a room on site, you know, in your building or not very far away. Whereas as we've been able to stream things and network things, it's just become far more decentralized, et cetera. And then as the client, if you like, or as the person that is using the SCADA system, you've continuously over time had more power about what you can do with it, whereas these other the vendors in the past had a lot of control. But again, it really mirrors what's been happening with the internet, streaming, and all that kind of stuff. So quite curious, and then quite quickly as well. And then just an example here of looking at that in the electrical industry. It's not too scary and not too widely, you know, course it's exciting, but the reality, of course, is that it's just a bit of an overview of what's going on. The PLCs, pretty much, they came out of the automotive industry and continue to be very powerful. And then other people would sort of said, oh, this is really good. This little black box is quite useful, isn't it? So therefore, other industries adopted it, and it's quite a rigorous little black box, and it's quite robust. And of course, it gave you all these different things, the flexibility, reliability. You know, you could drop it a couple of times, and you know, it wouldn't necessarily blow up on you, or not, you know, stop working. And then its functionality is quite good because it can do all these kind of things, add up stuff, compare things. So in the old days, you know, we might have called it a microprocessor. So it's like that. It's like a nice little black box that you can program to do a whole range of things. And again, we're not going to look at all these functions. We're going to, you know, just start you off by looking at a couple of them, and you'll be able to see that from the lab notes that we've got. And of course, when we get together next Monday and Tuesday, we'll deal with that. And then I just gave you a little example. And the setting out here, I mean, again, you know, your little diagram might look slightly different to mine. That's no drama. And if you're using the, you know, the software that we've given you, again, it would look slightly different. And then you'll see some of this when you get in the lab as well. So what I've done here is just try to give you form, I suppose. So just basically, you know, write out what your inputs and outputs are, drop some little schematic diagram, and then describe what's happening. And what you're going to find is that we're going to ask you to do quite simple things, to be honest. So it's not too onerous, but it's enough to encapsulate what you're doing. Now also, again, I can tell you now, big secret, there's going to be no questions with regards to PLC programming on the exam, because it becomes, it can be too open-ended, I suppose. Whereas you can go and check this with a little emulator that you've got access to, and then go, oh, hang on a minute, I've made a silly mistake there, and you can fix it up. You know what I mean? And again, in the exam, I'm going to ask you, if I had to ask you, I've done it before, I'd ask you something like this. You know, you're going to turn it on, turn it off. So it becomes a bit redundant because you've already covered it in the tutorial, so it's not really that wildly exciting. So, you know, surprise, surprise, week 4, you can put a line through it when you're doing your revision for the exam, because there ain't going to be any questions on it. So just keep that in mind, as I say. How we're assessing that is the practicality of the laboratories. So just keep it in mind in that context. Once we've marked your assignments, your laboratories, you know, your pretty much conscious raising-ness has finished. All right, so, sorry, any questions about those slides? As I said, it's all introductory stuff, just, you know, it's far. Look, you can click, if you just simply put in PLCs and ask Google God, you'll get reams of stuff, and you'll get videos and things like that, and that's fantastic. Please go and have a look at it if that's, you know, if your passion, you'd like to explore it a bit more. At the moment, that's kind of where we are with this unit, but that's okay. Don't, we'll revising as we go along in the next few years. The other thing, of course, is the good old tutorial questions, and as I say, for this one, it's quite powerful if you use a little emulator. And again, recap question, and then again, as I say, your little diagram might be slightly different. That's fine. It's no big drama. And then, as you can see, I've just gone through and explained what's going on. Okay. The key thing is the real key thing is really looking at the laboratory and making sure you're comfortable with that. That's the key thing. And again, so coming up with a laboratory, just look at a few things with that, and I'll get down to some nitty-gritty and answer any questions and things. So there's your activity sheets, and as you'll see that you should have done your pre-lab. Extremely important. There's nothing worse than, you know, having a group member that hasn't done the pre-lab. You know, that's all part about being a group member. There's been some changes with the groups, and obviously, you know, there'll be a bit of catch up there, but please make sure that, you know, you've been followed up on that, because it is nothing more frustrating than to have somebody in your group that hasn't done the pre-lab and communicated with you. And then there's the 2 activity sheets, and again, print those off and have them all ready. Yeah, that's okay. So that's pretty much what that is. And then, as I say, you've got the emulator, and the key thing with the emulator is that sometimes you hit some glitches, and over the years, I think this was, did I put a date on? I think I might have taken the date off it. 2017 or 2018, we had a bit of a problem, and so therefore Simon did a patch, but not really, but he fixed it. So Simon is, as I say, anything technical in that context, what we do is, my deal is that as the lecturer, I look after the theory and all that kind of stuff, And once we get in the laboratory, pretty much I'll just step back and Simon will take over in that context, because I'll let him do his job. That's what his job is. But here what we've done is, if you have been having problems trying to access this, get on to Simon, and his details are there. I know one person has had a problem with it, but get straight on to Simon, and Simon's very helpful. He'll obviously call you. You might even he might give you some more information, or he may even do a Zoom video with you. I'll leave that up to you guys to figure out. So as we might imagine, it's week 4, day 4. You've got today, Friday, and good morning on Monday to get that finished. Okay, so as I say, please make sure you've done all that, so that you are working with your group as much as possible. So there's that. That's been there all the time. And then the write-up and information. Now, again, I'll go through this once we get in the session, but pretty much if you've got this in your mind as I'm talking on Monday/Tuesday, then anything that comes out of it might trigger. So have a good read through that. It's prescriptive, because what I want you to be able to do is come in, get it done, and get out. It's a bit like a secret mission behind enemy lines. I want you to, drop in with your parachute, get the stuff done, get out before the enemy can take a shot at you. So in this way, all this preparatory stuff, if you've looked through this and had a cup of tea and had a glance at it, and then when you come in, obviously you're all set up. The idea too is that you can set up a template, because I've given you all the stuff here. You can easily set up a template, so somebody's doing that. And the laboratory really is all about project management. So even though I've assigned groups of 4 and we've had to have a couple of groups of 5, that's no big drama, because in lots of ways the project management is such that if you share the jobs around, because you're going to be capturing images, you're going to have to reference stuff, you're going to have to write up some stuff. And as I say, if you can assign people but then rotate, you don't want to be the person stuck doing all the writing of a particular thing, or answering the questions, or that type of stuff. Collectively, you'll answer questions as a group. We'll talk about that. But if you're the bunny that's not getting a chance to push the buttons, well, that's not very fair. So there will be a call to rotate and that type of stuff, to make sure everybody's getting a go at working with the PLC. Also, if you're a person that has a lot of experience with PLCs and you didn't get an exemption, for argument's sake, but you've had some experience with them, well, step up, because we're always interested to hear, your experiences as we're working with staff, or, don't necessarily take control of the whole machine, but if you have some experience, that's very useful for other people, so that you can sort of say, oh no, don't do that, because there's going to be smoke coming out of it, that type of thing, or, you sort of say, oh, hang on a minute, it's a really good technique to do this. Share that with the other people. Don't be concerned about being out front. That's no drama. And then of course the assessment criteria sheets are very important, because that's what I'm going to mark you as. So as you can see, there is referencing. So there's 15% of the marks. If you want to just give a 0 for that, well, that's fine. But I don't know, but you don't know how much I marked away. And then of course you can see that I'm looking at as you might imagine, the majority of the marks are going to be up in the collection and the analysis. And it's not a lot of analysis, to be honest, in this bracket if you look at it carefully. But the best advice I can give you, as always, is be prepared. Be a Boy Scout, Girl Scout. And the fact of the matter is that if you are prepared, you've done all the pre-lab, you've got your group already functioning. When you come in, you'll be able to sort of say, oh yeah, well look, I'll do that for half an hour, and look, if you do that, that'll be great. And the point is that we get you in the room for 3 hours. We give you some advice, we share and care with each other, and say, oh, that's a good idea that Bradley said, or Cameron said, and what Fabio was thinking. And then what we do, of course, is that the way I look at it is that you're big kids now, you're big 3rd and 4th years. In first year, the competition was that, you don't want to share things. My attitude about it is that the only competition that you have is about yourself now. So therefore, then, if somebody has a good idea and we share it, well, steal it, but assimilate it, and why not? So most people really, if they are listening and are on task in that 3 hours, and then the write-up, as I say, over the last 2 to 3, particularly 3 years, we've been getting marks of 8, 9, or 10. Basically, is what you're getting for a lab. So if you're doing that, you've caught on that. That's what I want you to do. I want you to obviously achieve and share and care and help other people out. But the key thing, of course, is that encapsulating all that information in that particular submission. So you're locked in a room with us for 3 hours, you get some advice, you share and care, and then pretty much what we do is that we push you out the door and say, away you go, and then I'll come back to my office. I'll be working in my office most of the day. Simon will be up in the lab, Janenka will be up at his lab, Nigel in Bundaberger in his lab, Matt in Gladstone, And basically, if you need to, you shouldn't need to go back and talk to those guys, but if you need to, at least you can go knock on their door and just check on something. And then, as I say, most people should have that done long before 10 p.m. You know, if you're still doing this at 6 o'clock at night, something going wrong, something, you know, you're really spending, you know, we'll see how we go. The first one is always, well, not a panic if I can put it that way, but, you know, it's a lot of project management. The technical side of it is not that difficult, to be honest. But again, you get to play with the black box, and that's great. But it's the project management, trying to get everything together, because you're going to have all these photographs and then trying to figure out what you need to use and what you don't need to use. All right. Okay, so that's pretty much in readiness again for next week. So if we just go back up. The other key thing, of course, is that, just way too far, is your laboratory groups themselves. So as we mentioned, there might be some reshuffles, and there has been. So thank you very much for those people that have already been organised and been working together, and now you've got a new member and all that kind of stuff. But look, thank you again for your professionalism and your inclusiveness in doing that. So these are the groups now. We do have a couple of groups of 5 and then groups of 4. I've got a student there, I'm not too sure, I haven't had catching up with them. But the reality, of course, is, as I say, sometimes a group of 5 can be really a nuisance, because you have a couple of people sitting back with their feet up on the desk and their hands behind their head. Well, you know, I can guarantee you now that won't be happening. But with a group of 4, it's good too. But equally, you know, as I say to you about this project management, and once you sort of get inside of this, a group of 5, a group of 4, it can work quite good in terms of dynamics. But the key thing is that that group word, you know, if you're a group, well, you have to operate like a group. So therefore, then please make sure that you're communicating. The other thing too is to share information. In other words, when you walk out of the room, make sure everybody's got a copy of stuff. I mean, this sounds like a very minor thing, but equally, because I get you to do it while you're here, I don't get the old excuse of, you know, not that your dog ate your breakfast, ate your submission, but I don't get the old game of like, oh yeah, but Brad's got that. He gave that file, and he lives over in Western Australia. Oh, that's great. So sorry, didn't you share this information before you parted in 3 different directions? So, you know, we've been there, done that kind of game. But the reality here is that you should be able to, once you walk away, everybody should have a copy of it. And what I do is I assess it. One submission is one submission. So let's just say, let's look at this group here. Let's just say, for argument's sake, that Abby is the person that submits it. So obviously she collated it. I don't want 5 copies of it. I only want 1 copy. So Abby submits it on behalf of the group. Then what happens is that I assess it, and when I load it back up, everybody gets a copy at the same time, but you know what I mean? Everybody gets it once I load it up. The reality then is you have your own individual copy. You don't have to go and ask Abby, oh, has he given it back to us yet? Everybody gets a copy. And the other point, as I mentioned, that I will be marking it at home. Obviously, you know, I don't want to be sitting around here at 10 p.m. at night. So I'll mark it, and whether I'm uploaded at home, where my system is not obviously as fast as here at work, or if I upload it when I first come in the morning, will be either way. But the reality will be that by the time we start the session, the second session on the Tuesday, you will have a mark, we'll have some discussion. What will happen is that we'll get started on the Tuesday, and either I'll come ask groups individually, or whatever the case may be. We'll look at the dynamics when we get closer. But the key thing is now that we've got those groups in place, and we can look around. Any questions about that to begin with? Anything from the groups? So again, sincere thanks to those people for you know, shuffling around and getting those new members in, so that, again, the convenience, as I've said, is that because I've been arranging it so that we can do it in Zoom simultaneously across the campuses, that's a big advantage. Another advantage, as I've mentioned beforehand, is that if you are a mixed mode student, a distance student, and you live in the Bundaberg area, well, you know, sure, you know, coming to Rockhampton's, you know, wildly exciting and good to do. But equally, if you can do that on the Bundaberg campus and just come into there and mix in with the other students, fantastic. And likewise with Mackay or you know, Gladstone, that kind of stuff as well. So that's kind of why I needed you to get organised very quickly. And also, of course, we were down for 4 groups in Rockhampton, which mean Simon went and organised for another PLC to be shifted to Rocky. So, but we don't need that now because people have been able to reshuffle and things like that. And likewise, have been shifting around somebody with Mackay and that type of stuff. So excellent. So that's all good. Okay, so let's go back. So, any other questions about the lab now?
Yeah, Patrick, my team, we're trying to obviously get these lab reports sorted. We just weren't too sure what you're meaning by the truth tables in part A of the results, and then you want a collated truth table in part B. In the past, I've just put all the data tables in that part A section as you define it, and then in the part B section, I then refer back to them and explain what I'm seeing. Can you just explain what you're meaning by the two separate truth table sections, please?
For sure. As you go through the lab, what will happen is that you will be able to generate a little circuit diagram, a little diagram, a little schematic. And what you can do is overlay the truth table on that schematic. So what will happen is that you'll be looking, and also as you go through the prac, step 3 will be asking you, if you turn this off and turn that on, what happens? And therefore then the truth table for that particular scenario will be X, will be look like that. So therefore then when you capture that image, you have the little schematic and you put your truth table over top of it. And then when you move on to step 3 and step 5 and then step 6, they'll say, we'll do this now and push that button and rewire it this way. Now, what happens? So you get another truth table that you're testing something else. So therefore then you get another image with another truth table superimposed on it, which will be different to the one you did 3 steps ago. So therefore then at the end, what you're doing, they're just getting you to test out all these different combinations. And so therefore then when you get into part B, you go, hang on a minute, I see what they've done now. They've asked me to basically step me through looking at all these different configurations to get a truth table. So what I get people to do in the next part is that, okay, then well, why don't you go and get this bit from that truth table, that bit, and collate it. So therefore then when you go to do your discussion, all you're doing is now you've got one truth table that's looking at different things that you've been doing bit by bit. So that's the slight difference that's there.
Right, so the truth tables essentially in part A, they're more of a combination with a schematic. Is that what I'm hearing? Exactly. And then we move into the part B truth table, which is pulling all that schematic / truth table together just into the truth table.
That's right, and that truth table will be in your Word document. It won't be a captured thing. It'll be one that you now collate. Yeah.
Thanks very much, Patrick. Thank you.
As I say, thank you for getting inside of it, because as I say, once you get down, you go, hang on a minute, what do you mean you've got to capture all this stuff? Hang on a minute, what do you mean? So and that's what it is. It's more about in the 3 hours about project management going, hang on a minute, we've got like 40 photographs here. What are we going to do with all this? And that's the point. The point is to shuffle a lot of that into an appendix, but then pick and choose the ones that you want. And also just so that you're capturing it so that you're not just going, wire it, push a button, the light came on, let's move on. So the point of the matter is it's to help you conceptualize really what's happening. And yes, you push a button and the light, yes, you get the machine, you wire it, you push a button and the light comes on, that's great. And then you move on to the next thing and you think, hang on a minute, what settings do we have on this thing? So yeah, the idea of capturing it is so that you marry, the output to the wiring and the light coming on.
So along that line, the collated truth table should basically follow the format of the truth tables that are presented from the program.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you.
No, too easy. It sounds very onerous, but once you get there, you go, all right, okay, that's what he wants. Yeah. What I also do is I have an exemplar, which is it's not the greatest in the laboratory ever written. I think it's about 6 years old. But what I do is I use it I've removed everybody's names and stuff like that. And what I do is I just use it as a showcase to say, this is missing this bit. And that's why I say about the share and the care. Even I share and care. I'll say, look, that's, this person, I think they only got 8 out of 10 for it. If you're named for 10 out of 10, well, this is some of the things that and I draw that from the group and I say some stuff and, what do you think about this? How could they have improved on that type of thing? Yeah. Because as I say, to me, you should be performing quite well at this stage. They don't need to bash you up and lock you in a cupboard to try and get an end result. Yep, any other questions? All right. The key thing is preparation. If you've done the pre-lab stuff, you've got a bit of a template, and as Bradley and his group are doing, if you sort of cycle through and sort of tease it out a little bit, and then as I say, once you get in there, get on task, and you'll get your life back pretty quickly. And I say you'll get your life back pretty quickly as well in terms of once Tuesday finishes, you'll have both your marks, rock and roll, and that's over and done with. You can get on with other far more interesting and important things, to be honest. So I've designed it as much as I can to lock you in a room, yeah, painful as it is, let you go, and then, as I say, keep moving forward. That's the key thing for me. That's how I think about it. All right.
Yeah, just with that emulator, Patrick, I did have some fun trying to set it up, and I understand that Greg has as well. Both of us have got them going for our team, so we're good to go there. I did note that one significant thing Simon did miss out in his video was that verify button that you have to press for the thing. He just goes straight to it, presses it, and moves on, and it gave me all sorts of grief until I recognised that that's what he was doing. So, yeah, if the other people in the group here pick up on this, yeah, maybe you need to give them a heads up. Yeah, that verify button needs to be dealt with before you can move on with getting that to run.
Very good.
That was a big one for me.
Tap me on the shoulder Tuesday or Monday or Tuesday, and just remind me, and I'll get someone to come and have a chat once you get underway. And I won't hold you up, but just so that so he can go. Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, that'd be good. No, very good. No, it's all good.
Unfortunately, his sound still didn't get corrected on that one. It's on that recording, so it's about halfway through. It's still there. So anyway.
Well, sorry about that. As I say, I'm responsible for some things, and I have to shuffle the best I can. That's excellent. All good questions. That's good. That's like, never hesitate anyone to ask a question. I'll only ever say, I can tell you this much, and that's all. That's good. Key thing is that I want you to be successful. I'm not going to spoon feed you. I think you pretty much figured out that you've got lots of stuff there to work through, and then of course I'm horrible to you when you do the assignment because I give you horrible things to play around with. But in the end, we'll step you through, whether that's got to do with complex roots or whatever the case may be. But we'll get you there. But I won't spoon feed you. But I think you've understood that. If we work together, we'll have a bit of fun, a bit of silliness, and a bit of figuring out stuff. But in the end, I want you to be successful. That's the key thing. All right. Anything else about the labs? Happy? Okay. The assignment. Oh, goodness me, that's due tomorrow, isn't it? Oh, wow. More sleepless nights. So I'm assuming that that's going well and people are shuttling on. Fabio, you're happy? Is it all coming together?
Yeah, I've submitted mine already. It was big. It took a long time to get it done, but I got it done in the end. So. And
you're feeling confident about it? If I said to you, what do you reckon? Would you get what mark do you reckon you're going to get for it?
I've tried checking it with MATLAB and also with Wolfram, so I think it's correct. But in saying that, I did it in steps. I did the checking in steps. So I did the first part, check that, and then followed on. So if I've done an error between the checks or something, it might not be right. But
did you include those checks as an appendix or something, or did you?
No, I didn't.
In future, do just because sometimes I'm happy to look at that and go, oh, okay, fair enough, that's a silly mistake. Oh, look, I won't take 20 marks off. I'll only take 2.5. But again, great strategy. And as I keep saying, you've got these other tools. Why not use them? That's fantastic. So good on you. Good on you. So you're quietly confident that you've done a reasonable solution overall?
I think so. I don't want to say yes and then it turns out all horribly wrong. But I think it's gone in the right direction at least.
That's the key thing.
So,
and again, as I say, it's like all these things, you can get the answer 42, but then if you have to explain to somebody else what 42 is, well, that's another matter. So again, the other assessment criteria are about describing things and referencing them and all that kind of stuff. So yes, good.
Okay.
Good that you're checking that. That's the key thing because again, as I say, it's no good doing a problem that's 20 pages long if you made a mistake back up on page 3. It doesn't make any sense to me. So check, double check. Okay, good on you. That's good. Cameron, what about yourself? Sleepless nights, or you've been able to sit back and have a quiet time now?
Been doing a bit of work on some other projects, but I've been casually listening and making sure that, making notes and whatnot.
Sure. So your assignment, you're sort of well underhand, even though it's Thursday and the clock's ticking. You're sort of reasonably comfortable.
Oh yeah, it's well underhand. I didn't leave everything till the last minute. If that's what you're thinking.
Oh no! I'm just curious because everybody has welcome to life kind of thing. It's best laid plans and all of that, but I know people are juggling stuff. But you're feeling confident that you're sort of getting inside of it and sort of figuring it out, and like Fabio's saying, using Wolfram and these other things to check and go, oh yeah, that looks all right, and
Yeah, I feel pretty confident, but as confident as you can be until you get your results back.
Yeah, till I look at it and then.
Yeah. And then you realize, oh, you made so many mistakes.
Okay, well, good. That's good. That's good. Bradley, what about yourself?
I'm like Fabio, mine's already in. Yeah, using Wolfram Alpha and a little bit of MATLAB. Yeah, I probably haven't laid it out precisely, so the layout I might, need a bit of tidying up on, but certainly I've got the referencing and all that sort of stuff in there. I use a lot of figures to explain things, as you'll see in our lab reports and in my assignments. So yeah, like Fabio, as confident as you can be until you get your mark back and work out where you've got to go and sort things out. But certainly, it makes you work with the maths. But at the same time, it's not insurmountable, particularly with the tools like Wolfram Alpha and MATLAB that we do have. And at this level, we should be checking our work. So yeah, no, it's behind us now. We're focusing on the labs, and yeah, with the textbook, I am starting to play with Simulink a little bit. So enjoying trying to pull that in, because I'm all for using tools to be able to back up your manual calculations. So if we have stuff there and we can use it, yeah, very, very happy to learn it and use it into the future.
Excellent. Good. Well, thank you, gentlemen. As I say, the message I'm trying to give to you is that you have these things available to you, and why not use them? And then obviously fine tune what you're doing, and welcome to life. I mean, in the professional area, you either got somebody down the hallway you can go and ask. They're not going to let you play around with big trains and big electrical wires unless you check, double check. Let's be honest. And if you confidently can go to them and say, yeah, well, and again, that's that. Obviously, when you first start doing this stuff, you sort of think, yes, well, here it is, and then somebody puts all red biro over it. But the point of the matter is, then you, when you go to the next one, you go, well, okay, then I know not to do that or not to do that, and therefore, then you just all your professionalism's coming out. So good on you guys. That's great, fantastic. All right, well, anything else you want to check on? All right, good. Well, run and be free. Hopefully. Say, get your life back. Welcome to life, and if you can have a life, that's even better. So it's just trying to get that right, isn't it? It's a hard balance sometimes.
Not going to happen this semester, Patrick.
Well, I can't believe it's almost week 5, and then suddenly, as you know, week 5 we are going to have a student-free week, and then of course week 6.
Catch-up week, I call it. Catch-up week.
Yeah, you're right. Catch up with sleep, catch up with family, catch up with all that other stuff. Yeah, for sure. Well, gentlemen, good to see some smiling faces. Keep laughing. That's the key thing. And as always, if you've got a question, please do not hesitate to ask. Take care, and we'll see you, bright and sunny on Monday, if not before. All the best, everyone.
Thanks, Patrick.
Thanks, gentlemen.
See you later.
See you later.